Hi, welcome to Pure Yoga for Cyclists. So this is a spinal articulation practice. This can be done pre or post yoga. Really good if you've got lower back issues, if you've got shoulder issues. And we take that body through its whole range of movement, that spine in flexion, extension, rotation, lateral movement. So by doing this practice, it warms up the spine, it helps you get prepared. So you could always tag this on before your pre-yoga session, which I've got recorded on YouTube, or you can post it, or you can do it after post-yoga. But a really good thing, maybe even to do just in the morning if you wake up quite tight. So I'll take you straight into the practice. I'd like you to come to the short edge of your mat, have your feet hip width apart, toes in front of the heels, and just bring the hands down by the sides of the body, turn the palms forward, relax the shoulders, and just try and feel like you're tucking the tailbone down and you're lifting the lower belly up. A little softness through the knees, so we're not locking out in those joints. Relax through the shoulders. Try and bring those shoulder blades in towards each other and then try and draw them down towards the back pockets. Just take a moment here just to find that stability through the feet. The weight in the toes, the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot. Try not to let the feet rock out to the sides or internally. Just the whole of the foot nice and grounded to the mat. Just hold it for a couple more breaths. Maybe close the eyes here, feel that stability. Maybe you're rocking a little bit forwards and backwards. Then when you've found that stillness, open the eyes, relax the hands to the sides of the body. And then as you take your breath out, bring the chin into the chest, roll through the shoulders, roll through the upper part of the thoracic spine. And as you start to bend the lower spine, bend the knees and bring those fingertips down towards the floor, taking yourself into flexion of the spine. Then as you breathe in, slowly bring yourself back up, straightening the legs as the lower back straightens. Let the head be the last thing to uncurl. Lift, maybe raise the gaze, maybe take it into a little extension. And then bring that chin back into the chest again. Start to curl over. Start to roll through the upper, mid and lower spine, bending the knees as the lower spine bends. Bring the fingertips down towards the floor. Then as you come back up, arms are heavy, rolling back up through that spine. Start to bring those shoulders back to the hips. Maybe arch through that back, but try and take the arch through the whole of the back rather than just the lower. Then bring yourself back to the center. One more time rolling down, and this time as we roll down, make sure the arms are heavy, but we're not going to come back up from this space. Bend the knees as you bring those fingertips down towards the mat. Then start to bring the bum towards the heels. Bring the bum then into the center of the mat. Bring yourself down onto your back, head in line with the spine, hands down by the sides of the body, feet hip width apart. Then we're going to start to take it into bridge pelvic movement. So we're going to try and bring those pubic bones as though they're drawing towards the hips, but you keep that mid back on the floor. And then take that pelvic movement into the opposite direction. So you feel like you're dropping the belly down to the mat, that lower part of the spine and sit bones being dragged towards the shoulder blades. Take it again into the opposite way. So we're drawing the pubic bone towards those ribs. Pelvic floor movement. So when we take it in the opposite direction, the tailbone draws towards the shoulder blades. That takes us into anterior tilt. And then when you draw the pubic bone towards the ribs, it takes it into a posterior tilt. One more time in anterior tilt. And then bring it back to the neutral place, that space in between. Then we're going to do some bridge rolls. Start to push into the feet, curl that body slowly up towards the ceiling. The gaze stays up, the chest comes towards the chin, and create some space at the back of the neck. Then slowly bring those hips back down towards the floor. And again, roll those bodies back up, starting through the tailbone, lifting the lower spine, coming through the mid spine, lifting up a little through that thoracic spine, resting more on the cervical spine. Slowly then bring those hips back down. All the time trying to keep those knees from making them roll out to the side. And one more time coming up, one more time coming back down, feeling each vertebra touching the mat, the lower spine being the last thing that comes to the mat. Heel toe now, the feet out to the width, let the knees drop internally, arms come out to a T shape. Take the knees over to your right side, gaze to your left. Bring them back through centre without moving the feet. Take them over then to the left side and the gaze to the right. Just taking a little rotation through the waist. Take it 2 more times on both sides. Turning the head so we've got full movement through that spine, the upper and the lower. Over to your right, gaze to the left. One more time, knees to the left. And that gaze to the right. Bring those knees back into the centre. Straighten the legs out. Bring the hands up above the head. Then I'd like you to reach through the right side. So reach through the right fingertips, reach through the right heel, and slightly contract the waist on the left. Then take it to the opposite direction. Reach through the left heel and the left hand, and slightly contract through the right. 2 more times on both sides. Hitchhike the hips. Reach out through the left heel and the left hand, contract the right. 1 more time on both sides. So just moving that pelvic floor back to the center. Bring the hands down, bring the knees into the chest. Take a hold of the creases of the knees. Rock up and down that spine a few times, massaging those erector spinal muscles. And the next time you come up to seated, bring the bums into the centre, the feet forward, remove the flesh from under the sit bones, toes back towards the shins. Breathe in, elongate the spine, roll the shoulders back, then try and just fold from those hips, bringing that chest forward towards those toes, walking the hands to wherever they reach. Trying to keep the knees down. If the knees are starting to lift, come up a little and then push those knees down a little more. So we should get a stretch from the big toe all the way through the back of the legs, all the way up to the crown of the head. Just hold it in this sit and reach position, this forward fold. Try not to roll the shoulders. If this is your position, lift up the chest a little bit, maybe bring the hands back a little bit, and then try and pivot from these hips. 1 more breath here. Walk the hands then back towards the bum. Take a bend in both knees. Just bring the feet flat on the floor. Breath in, elongate the spine. Breath out, bring your left hand to the right knee, rotate to the right. Breath in, back to the centre, opposite side. Right hand to the left knee, rotate to the left. Back to the centre, opposite side. Back to the centre and turn to the left. Keep that spine tall. The twist comes through the waist. The hips stay neutral to that long edge of the mat. And the sit bones stay nice and grounded to the floor. Just 2 more times on both sides. Taking that rotation in that lower and mid part of the spine. 1 more time, both sides. Then come back to the centre. Bring your right hand to the floor, reach your left hand up, then take it over to the right. Come back to the centre, left hand down, right hand lifts and over to the left. Keep that spine tall, right hand down, left hand lifts, over to the right. Taking that lateral flexion through the waist. Keep that going a few times on both sides. One more time on each. Then come back to the center, swing the legs around, find a tabletop position. So again, we're going to find those pelvic tilts again, but in a different angle with the body. So these shoulders aren't going to move for a moment. We're going to just tilt the lower part of the body. We're going to find disassociation with the spine. So shoulders stay the same. So think about lifting that tailbone as though it points up to the ceiling and the belly drops down towards the floor. And then try and tuck that tailbone under between the legs as you draw the lower belly towards the ribs. And again, take it in the opposite direction. So when the tailbone lifts, we take anterior tilt. When the tailbone tucks and the lower belly lifts, we take posterior tilt. Keep that going a couple of times with that lower part of the spine, pelvic tilting, knowing that the space in between is your neutral place. Quite often people sit a lot in anterior tilt if their abdominal strength is a little weak. So just another couple of more. And then bring that to a neutral space. So now, not moving the pelvis, we're going to go in retraction and protraction of the shoulder blades. So let the chest feel like it's dropping towards the mat and the shoulder blades are squeezing together and the shoulder sockets are lifting. And then push yourself into the floor, send the chest cavity in between those shoulder blades as you push away from the mat. And then let that chest sink again. Feel those shoulder blades coming together, those rhomboid muscles are squeezing and the chest at the front is lengthening. And then you feel those pectoral muscles shorten as you push the chest in towards the back of the body. So as you can see, we're just going up and down with those shoulders, but we're using the push of the hands into the mat to push that chest back up into the back of the body. So retraction is when we bring the shoulder blades together, and protraction is when we send that center of the chest towards the back. Just a couple of more each side before we then take it into flexion and extension of cat-cow. Then bring it back to a neutral space. Cat-cow, tops of the feet flat. Breathe in, lift up both the head and the bum and drop that belly. And then take it into the opposite direction. You send the belly back, you lift in the center of the spine, chin tucks, tailbone tucks. Do that flexion and extension a few times to your breath. Working each vertebra as you move in and out of two spaces. Keep those hands nice and grounded, the tops of the feet pushing into the mat to activate through the legs and the arms. Do another couple more in both directions. And then we'll take it to a moving thread the needle, which will bring rotation into the waist. Come back to a neutral space. Put your weight into your left hand, raise the right hand to the ceiling, and then thread that right hand in between the left, bringing your right ear to the mat. Raise again, back up to the ceiling, lifting and opening the chest. Thread that right hand in between the left, right ear to the mat. And again, raise that hand, lift that chest, thread that right hand. One more time, lift and thread. Then bring that right hand back to meet the left, same on the left side. Lift the left hand and thread in between the right hand and the right knee, left ear to the mat. Push back into that right hand, lift the left and thread. Lift and thread. Two more times, lift. Taking that rotation through the center of the waist. One more time, lift and thread. And then bring that left hand down to meet the right. Bring your big toes together. Bring your sit bones back towards the heels, or wherever they can reach, knowing we're getting a stretch through those hip flexors, those lower backs. Bring the forehead to the mat. Just take a couple of breaths here, reaching forward with the fingertips, back with the sit bones. Then if you wish to take a lateral flexion, the last movement of the day, walk the hands over to your right side. Bring your left hand on top of the right. Nudge your left hip back towards the left heel. Sink the chest to the inside of that right thigh and feel that lateral stretch on the left side and the contraction through the waist on the right. Take a couple of breaths here. Then work the hands back over towards the left side this time. Bring your right hand on top of the left. Nudge your right hip back towards the right heel. Let the body sink to the inside of the left thigh. Feel the stretch down those intercostal muscles on those ribs, allowing those lungs to expand every inhale and contract on every exhale. Then bring those hands back into the center. Just take a moment in neutral spine. Just have a check from the fingertips down to the toe tips. Have a notice how your own body feels, how that spine feels as we've moved it through all planes of movement. Rotation, lateral flexion, flexion and extension. Just moving the cervical spine around the neck, the thoracic spine and the lower lumbar spine and the sacrum. The whole body moved in all directions. Walk the hands back towards the knees and just make yourself into a comfortable seat just for a couple of breaths. Maybe close the eyes. Maybe take some breaths in for 4. Hold at the top for 2. Then breathe out for 5. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 5. In for 4. Hold for 2. Out for 5. If you wish to stay here for a little longer, doing those breaths in for 4, hold for 2, out for 5, feel free to do so. But thank you for joining me for spinal articulation. So I hope this helps with the whole mobility of that spine. So remember, I have pre and post spinal articulation and dynamic warm-up, which can be used. The pre and post is obviously as they are. Pre before you ride, post is after. So pre is strengthening, post is stretching. So I hope you enjoy these videos. Feel free to comment at the bottom. It would be great to hear from you. Thanks, guys.